All right, you guys, it is time. It is time for me to break up with some of my favorite powder blushes. You know, you get to that point with more mature skin where it's time to start really evaluating the powder products that you're putting on your skin versus the cream. And the explosion of liquid blushes this year has really caused me to overindulge in blushes. It's time to declutter my blush collection. So I'm going to share with you which ones I'm getting rid of and which formulas I am replacing them with. If we haven't met before, hi, I'm Jody. Think of me as your midlife beauty bestie. I'm 55 and I love all things beauty, and I love trying products and finding ones that work for our more mature skin. Some work and some don't. Some of these powder formulas, when I bought them in the last year or two, I really loved them, but formulations have really come a long way. And that's true for luxury products as well as drugstore. So let's just dive into some of my old favorites that aren't really getting used anymore. First up is this beautiful shade Dainty by MAC. This is their mineralized blush. It is such a pretty color, you guys, but the more I reach for it, the more I like the color for a second, and then I don't like how it provides visual texture on my cheek. I feel like my pores are accentuated, and I also find that when I use a setting spray, it doesn't tend to melt into my skin like I would like for the look that is more 2025. I think blush sitting on your skin was a little bit more of a look a few years ago, but now it's really more about that flushed look. And this one just doesn't really do it for me anymore. I think the tone, while it's cool, I think is just a little too cool for me. But more than that, it's the formula. It's not as silky as powder blushes are today. Now this next one, this was an expensive blush and I really love the color. This is Dior's Backstage Rosy Glow. But similar to that MAC, it is a little bit more, it's a little more powdery, but I find that it is just a little bit bright. Now, as a point of comparison, what I am replacing this with is the same shade in the cream, which I absolutely love. So you can see the two shades together. If you are a fan of this, but you don't love the way it sits on your skin, then their cream version of the Rosy Glow is absolutely stunning. You can kind of see the two together. That's a little bit thicker. I would never just put it directly on my cheek like that. I usually put a brush on my blush and then dab the brush. Well, here's a great example. Here is a BK Beauty 106 that's clearly a blush brush. I just put the blush on at the tip, dab it on my hand, and then I will go in and put it on my cheeks. So again, I think when you have the shade that you love, but you have the cream option versus powder, for me, it's gonna be the cream every time. This next one hurts my heart because I am a big fan of Pat McGrath Labs, and this is the Skin Fetish blush. I loved this blush. Funny story, I saw a Instagram post where Pat McGrath had done a makeup look on Miley Cyrus. This was probably 2 years ago, and she used this blush, so of course I had to order it right away. It is a very pretty blush. I just find that it takes a lot to get the shade payoff that you want, and when you add powder again to more mature skin, one coat is one thing, but when you build this up to get that good color payout, I just find that I had to use way too much and it never really looked quite right. I do love the cream blushes by Pat McGrath. I think it's Lotus is it. I'll link it down below. It's one of my favorites. I mean, you can see I've hardly used it and it's 2 years old. It still has the really pretty design on it. So I think the cream blushes by Pat McGrath Labs are better suited, the formulas, for our more mature skin. Now this one is also a tough one because I love this artist. I love all the products that she comes out with, mostly. In fact, I'm gonna try that new, here's a spoiler alert, I did just pick up her new eyeshadow. That's gonna come in a tutorial pretty soon, or a swatch review. I also just picked up her new High Glam Foundation. I'm not sponsored by Natasha Denona. These two products together were about 130 bucks, so we're gonna see if it's worth it. I hope these don't make a breakup video pretty soon. All right, so this blush, you guys, I loved everything in the My Dream collection. It had the eyeshadow, it had this blush palette, and then it had a mini blush palette, all of which I have. Here's the thing I didn't like about this. A, I didn't use it that often, but I didn't use it because this highlight is so sticky that I found that I got my hair stuck in it a lot. And liquid highlighters have really seen a moment this year. So there's just much better formulas on the market when you're looking for a highlight. But the blushes on top of that, this blush is just a little too dark for me, but it always felt like, I'm running out of hand space. Let's clean off a hand. All right, there we go. But this blush just always felt like it was a little too rough for me. It never felt smooth. You know how some powders really feel very creamy or silky? This one never really did. It just felt, and still does feel, more of a rough formula. Natasha Denona's formulas are usually really, really good. Her eyeshadow formulas are, in my opinion, some of the very best. Very creamy, very blendable, really good color payout. But the blush formulas, I just found them to be a little bit too coarse. That's probably the best word I can find. They're too coarse, and then this is just way too sticky of a highlight. Again, there's so many better highlighter formulas on the market. All right, e.l.f. had to make the list because I love all these brands. I'm sorry, but their blushes are just, they just feel outdated. I feel like blush has really had a moment this year. And some of these blush formulas that I got from 2023 or 2024, you can really feel the difference when you go in and put them on your skin. They're just a little bit more rough. This is e.l.f.'s Premier Infused Blush. And while it is actually silkier feeling than the Natasha Denona and definitely than the MAC, I felt like it just wore too patchy for me. So I was never really a fan. I tried it a few times and I just didn't really like the way it looked after a few hours of wear. So that one's gonna have to go also. Not all powder blushes are getting the boot though. One that's gonna stick around for me is this one by Jane Iredale. This is the Pure Pressed blush. This is in shade Barely Rose. You want a creamy, silky formula that melts into the skin. And when you apply a setting spray over it, you want it to just not disappear, but just sort of softly blur into your skin. That's what this one does. I'm a big fan of these formulas. The Jane Iredale formulas are very similar in their powders, in terms of their eyeshadow powders and their face powders and their blush powders. Very nice, soft all across the board. I'm keeping two other powder blushes. One is Tower 28, and again, this color is Long Beach Iced Tea. Very pretty diffused. When you feel the difference between this and like that MAC one, it's just a huge difference. And if you're gonna clean out your powder blush collection, I would encourage you to just do almost a blind rub test. And when you feel the difference, you'll know which ones are the ones that you want to keep if you have more mature skin and your skin is becoming more textured, especially through your high points of your cheek areas. So Tower 28, big fan of this one. It will stay with my Jane Iredale Keep collection. Another one I'm going to keep is by Rare Beauty. This is the powder version of Hope. And it feels very, very similar in terms of the quality of the smoothness of the formula as that Tower 28 one. You can just really feel the difference, you guys. New powder blushes have just reformulated to a place of pure bliss. A couple of the liquid blushes that I am definitely keeping because I wear them quite often. These Unreal blushes by Hourglass. This is in shade Whim and this is in shade Scene. Love both of those. Really easy to put on. They're more of a liquid blush than a cream blush. You just push the bottom and it comes out on your hand. And then you would just pick this up with any type of a fluffy brush. I like to pat it on the back of my hand first and then go in and just lightly stipple it where I want a little bit of blush. I just love that flush look of color as I've gotten a little bit older. I feel like it's more complementary to an overall look, whether you want a no makeup day or you want a soft glam or even a full glam. You can build these up. Another cream blush that I'm keeping is Baby Got Blush by Essence. You guys might have saw me talk about this earlier this summer. They have some really nice cream bronzers as well as these cream blushes. I mean, look at that. This really closely matches. Did I just find a dupe? Did I just find a dupe for this Dior? Pretty close, pretty darn close. Look at me just stumble across that by accident. Okay, so pretty close. The Dior one's a little bit more cool pink, but Tickle Me Pink by this Essence Baby Got Blush, that's a pretty darn good dupe. And the price difference between these two, you guys. This is under, I want to say $8. I think it's more like $6, and this was north of $45. So, okay, there you go. That's pretty close. It's a little more pink. I do have to say it's a little more pink, but I think with some, if you under sculpted that with a little bit of foundation over the top, those would look pretty darn similar. All right, another liquid blush that I am keeping in the collection is these Cloud Blush by Cloud Blush. I have one, but I would definitely buy another one if I needed one, but clearly I don't need another blush. This is in shade, it's written way too small. Yeah, it's written way too small. Isn't that interesting though, as I was just looking at this? These Cloud Blushes are made in Canada by Ulta, but you can't get them in Canada. That's frustrating. So clearly they're not made for those of us with mature eyes, because I can't tell you what shade that is. I will look on the website and see if I can find it. These are very blendable, that you can layer them. I like it with a little bit of a, let me just put it on so you can see. I'll put on this other side. It does come with a big doe foot applicator. You could just go right in, but see, that's why I don't, because they're pretty darn pigmented. But that's okay, BK Beauty 116 to the rescue. And we will just softly blend that out. So there you go, you guys. That is my latest blush update. Getting rid of some of these powder blushes that are just taking up space, collecting dust, and really not doing anything for my more mature face. Oh, I almost made a rhyme there. Have you decluttered your blush lately? If so, give me a thumbs up down in the description box. Maybe you don't need to. Maybe you're better about kind of getting rid of stuff than I am if you're not using it. But liquid and cream blush formulations have really come a long way in the last 18 months. So no need to hang on to these old powders if they're not serving you. If they're just like mine were, making me feel a little bit anxious because there's just more stuff that I just don't need and I don't use it. That does it for me today, you guys. If you like tips on how to apply blush, you might like this video I'll leave here for you. It's one of my favorites, and it's kind of how I apply my blush. That does it for me. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in just a couple days. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.